All right, cool. Let's get started. Yeah. Hello, Dr.B.
Hello, Strong Bear, and hello, everyone. Hello, Csounders everywhere. Welcome to another live stream focusing on CsoundMeta, the phenomenal software written by brilliant Strong Bear, and some of my sounds, and some of your sounds. The exciting thing about CsoundMeta is, well, it's free, and two, it uses the powerful Csound synthesis and signal processing language, and all of that history of great computer music written in this language that's all running in our CsoundMeta Unity app. And so I'm excited to be back with you again and to discuss with my colleague, collaborator, and former student, but now my teacher, Strong Bear. So Strong Bear, how have you been?
Yeah, pretty awesome. So we premiere our piece in CsoundMeta in ICMC. Was it 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, a little while ago.
A while ago. It's pretty exciting to after putting all the effort together and went on stage and did it live for people. It's a pretty much a different feeling. Yeah. So
it was beautiful, and what I want to remind people of is the cool thing about CsoundMeta is you can play with anyone from anywhere in the world. And so I was on stage at Berkeley in the David Friend Recital Hall, and David Friend was the co-developer of the ARP company and ARP synthesizers, which is how I got started and inspired to learn Csound. I had an ARP. From Alan Perlman, and so ARP, the company was named after Alan R. Perlman. And so we were in the David Friend Recital Hall. I'm on stage with a former student, Gwen, who was had flown in from California to play with me. I was there with a former student who's now at Stanford, who flew in from California to play on stage, Mateo. But I was then joined by Strong Bear on stage from Lakewood, Ohio, and Tyler Kaufman, a former student who was playing with us from Paris, France. And so we had some other students on stage, Zio, who trained in from White Plains, New York, and so my former alumni were on stage with me playing, which was cool, but also alumni were playing from the middle of the United States and from across the Atlantic Ocean. And that's all possible because of Strong Bear's cool software. And we'd been rehearsing with all of you, as you know, on this live stream and showing you what the software does. And revising the piece and developing new features so that the piece could be even more musical. And so, yeah, the premiere went really great, and it was really satisfying. The place was packed. They opened the walls to the concert hall, and the corridors were all filled at Berkeley. The balcony was chock-a-block full, and so there was a nice crowd that got to experience it as well. So yeah, it was pretty special.
Wow, yeah. I remember it was 3 or 4 a.m. or something midnight for Tyler, and he was so helpful and on time and to play with us. What was your experience like? What's the difference between performing it online and on stage? What are some lessons learned? Or
one of the features of CsoundMeta is that we have a kind of watcher mode, and where I was casting, and also at the same time as playing, I was also trying to be the filmmaker. So as I'm looking around these virtual worlds that we were creating and that are part of our system, and they're made by Blockade Labs. And so we designed all of these spaces in forests, and we're going to play it again for you today, maybe a small version of it. So that would be fun. But, I'm not only trying to play, but I'm also trying to kind of be a pretty good filmmaker. So I'm trying to kind of look around, and because what I see, the audience sees. What the watcher sees, the audience sees. And so I'm trying to both enjoy playing, but also try to kind of relax and be a good cinematographer. And so what I loved about our performance was that I think both you and Wen kind of realized that I was so busy trying to be a good filmmaker that you kept handing me objects that I could play. And that was kind of neat. So, and so it was like I'm wandering around and I see someone has handed me an orb. Oh, hey, play that one, Dr. B. And so I felt like I had great collaborators who knew the piece, and they were kind of taking good care of me during the performance. So that was kind of special, that not only was everyone playing and kind of immersed in these worlds, but they were also kind of, here, let's hand that one to Dr. B so he can, so that was a neat extra feeling that I felt like my entire ensemble was also kind of making sure that the conductor or the the watcher also could have a little fun, and so that was pretty special. And the other thing that was quite special was this was the first time that we had tried using two wireless microphones plugged into the headset with a wireless receiver, and in the end of each movement, the piece is in 3 movements. So at the end of each movement, I would hum a little like lullaby in the end of the first movement. It was kind of forest dreams. And then desert dreams, things get a little scarier, but then there are kind of rituals, and we hear these monks chanting, and we find ourselves at this temple. And so then I kind of join in singing this Gregorian chant with the monks a little bit. And then at the very end, well, a lot happens in Broken Dreams, the third movement, and kind of New York gets destroyed, and there's a lot of bombing and a lot of, like what's going on everywhere in the world today. And so things are kind of blowing up, and then things are kind of destroyed, but we discover this kind of that civilization has survived a little bit. And so at the end, I start humming the lullabies again, but I'm on a planet, another planet or something. And it was really beautiful because Bethany at that point started on her recorder in another mic being processed with DSP and Csound, imitating the lullaby that I was singing. And so it's like the song of humanity continued in the cosmos, and so it connects with a little bit of my idea of how music is this kind of eternal and spiritual connection that we share. And so, boy, that was magical. And what even made it more magical is when we play together, you can see the player's name maybe and the mallets that they're using. But if you get close to the player on stage, their ghost shadow appears. And if you get really close, they pop through. And so as Bethany was playing, I sort of started wandering a little closer to her on stage, and you'd sort of see her ghost or her spirit, let's say. And then you could even see little bits of Bethany's face playing as I would get really close listening to her and then back away. And so like her memory or the memory of those who've passed or those we've loved or our friends kind of come back into focus. So there was a lot of magic that happened in the piece, and it was really special. I think that the audience and everyone appreciated what both Strongbear and I are trying to create is something that lets people collaborate and play around the world and connect with the whole history of computer music. There's a lot we're trying to share with the world through this app. And I'm hoping that everyone at the International Computer Music Conference, which is the premier meeting of all computer musicians, this was the 50th anniversary. So I think that maybe some of them got it.
Wow.
I know it was so beautiful for me. So that was
nice. I remember when Bethany played the flute, I could hear her flute like a recorder coming through Zoom, very vivid and emotional. Yeah. So we have the recording. It was live on, I think Berkeley did it, or the ICMC organizer, they did it themselves or something, but it's live and it's recorded on Vimeo. I think I'll find the link again and maybe post it.
Supposedly it's on Vimeo. The former chairman of the department was just asking me a little while ago, Michael Birillo. He's now emeritus chair of EPD, and he was my chairman for many years at Berkeley. We played concerts together, and he was there too. Both of my new chairman and he were in the audience, and a lot of my colleagues from the last 50 years were there. And they were just asking, is there a recording? And Bethany was telling me there is a Vimeo link where you can watch the whole keynote and you can actually see this performance. So I haven't watched it yet. I must confess I often don't watch my performances. I hope they're beautiful, and I know I could learn more by watching, how I look on screen or whatever, but I don't know. I'm just busy trying to make music and make something beautiful happen and be there with the people and be there with my students. And so I have not gone back and watched it.
Yeah, I know your schedule is full with more activity, not just CsoundMeta, but with other stuff like the radio baton, like with the Wii mode, with the brainwave. With modular.
This was a big week. ICMC ended, and we were rehearsing and setting up every night of the week till 3 in the morning or whatever. And then that ended, and I think I had 1 day to recuperate, and then 4 days of not sleeping, getting ready for a high school workshop we just are doing at Berkeley right now. And so I did 6 workshops over 2 days that involved modular sensors and brainwave music, heartbeat music, and remote jam sessions, and every one of these high school students got to play with CsoundMeta too. And so that was fun for them. And this year no screaming. I did something last year, and I probably told this story, but it's worth telling, with high school kids. So we put the headsets on all of them and said, okay, here we go. And now in CsoundMeta, you can be immersed. You can be on the clouds, looking down at canyons and rivers. And so, I'm scrolling through these different blockade labs worlds with all these students. And I'm hearing the students, some say, wow, whoa. And then I hear some students screaming like, ah! And I'm thinking, wow, they love live music. They are loving this. And then I realize they're screaming because they're so afraid of heights.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh no.
So now we add a little warning before every time we turn on the virtual world for a new player. So this year, actually, Strongbear, I had them all sit in a circle. Okay, everyone sit down. I had them sitting in a circle, a big circle. And in fact, it was nice because I was teaching them by sort of saying, okay, here's an orb, I'll hand it to you, play it, stretch it, mutate it, play with it, which are all the things you can do with sound in this world that Strongbear has created, and then pass it to the person next to you. So it was like the hot potato game, but we were passing the orb around. Then I'd create another one, hand it to the student, they play that. And so we built up this circular jam session, which was fun, where we were sharing the sound,
playing it, passing it to someone else, and then turning them all into wanderers and flying them all around. And so it was a little better. I kind of we had no screaming because everyone was sitting down.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So they have something to hang on to.
Exactly. Exactly. And then a few students start standing up, and I'm saying, "Now watch out." Okay, and I'm knowing I need to go over it, maybe hold them. The first time I showed this to my wife Colette, and I put it on her, and it was the same deal. She started screaming, and so I was like right behind her, kind of holding her back. Okay, no, I got you. Go ahead. And then in fact, after that, Strongbear and I designed a bunch of worlds specifically for beginners that were in the streets of Boston, in the streets of London, in the streets of Vienna. And so it was like, with beginners now, I start on the ground. I don't start on top of the clouds or on another planet or looking down at skyscrapers from a hovercraft. I start on the ground. And so all of our experiences have inspired, well, a lot of great features that Strongbear has been able to implement and just added so brilliantly and beautifully. So it is worth mentioning something very important right now before we start, and then we'll play and jam. Right there, while we were playing the piece, were the last moments of Barry Vercoe's life. And I had no idea, right after the conference on Father's Day, Scotty Vercoe, who I talked about a little in the keynote, Barry's son, and a great Csounder, a great jazz musician. Well, Scotty contacted me and told me that his father had passed away. So, and in fact, Barry Vercoe passed away on Father's Day. And Barry Vercoe is the father of Csound. Barry Vercoe is the one who gave us this incredible gift, this incredibly powerful synthesizer. It's open source, it's free. He's been developing it since the 60s. It started as Music 360 for an IBM 360 computer that you used punch cards to compute the sounds. And a lot even of the legacy of Csound, where you have instrument events. There really were an instrument card. So every time you played a note event, you typed up and punched a card, and the IBM would read the card and read the parameters. And so it's a lot of that legacy is still in the language. The whole history of computer music is in there. And Barry open sourced Csound, gave everything away for free, dedicated his entire life to, creating this incredible instrument. Now, always it broke my heart a little. Barry Vercoe, amazing composer. Guggenheim winner, incredible, prolific composer of some of the most beautiful contemporary music, electroacoustic music and acoustic music. And so, but then he started building this instrument for the world. His great composition is this language, this piece that he gave to all of us. And so, the last gift, was, in a way, us, performing this for him. I know Strongbear, he was passed away in his native country, his home country of New Zealand. And I know, Strongbear, your hope was that we could, you had a colleague there. Why don't you tell a little of that story? Your dream didn't come true, but you knew that Barry and I were in communication and his health was fading and failing. I knew that, and I shared that with everyone at the keynote, but I had no idea that these were his last moments with us. Tell everyone for a minute what you were hoping, and we never made it happen about Barry and CsoundMeta.
So my co-founder of Designveloper is now studying in New Zealand, and he's pursuing his PhD in data science. So he's so close to Barry Vercoe, like in the same country, and so I would hope that he could sometime bring like a MetaQuest with CsoundMeta install, and then just let Barry Vercoe try and to see like how Csound has been like spread, had been developed and grows so much, and to see like we have bring all kind of legacy of the Csound, all the composition from all the classics into um, like one at one place. So it's like a collection, a museum of like Csound inside CsoundMeta. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but like so I also mentioned this to Dr.B like last year around around the the CSAL conference, international CSAL conference like last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we were so close to make that happen, but unfortunately,
Oh,
yeah,
I know. I know. Barry and I had been in touch in November or October or so. I think it was October, or late September, early October. I think early October. And I did tell him all about CSound Meta, and I showed him all the new things we were doing with CSound, and he was very inspired and very happy. CSound makes all the sounds in the Kia EV6 car. CSound is now the underlying synthesis engine in the Coca-Cola Coke Z hardware and software synthesizer. And so I wanted to show him that Csound had made it. We're in these cars, we're in these soft drinks, that it's everywhere. And I wanted to share with him all of that. And then I told him, and by the way, Barry, doing this now in the Quest, you can play with us, and you can jam, and we can play all over the world together, and people can play. And so I told him all about that. He was all excited. And then we ran to Vienna. We did the premiere. And then Barry and I were not able to really coordinate. Hey, let's throw a headset on, or arrange for someone to come over and play. His mobility was limited by that time, and so it didn't happen. But boy, Strongbear's dream. Well, we've made it a reality, and here's the thing, and we'll finish this tribute to Barry, but he's such a beautiful person, and gave such a great gift, gave his life to creating this synthesizer for us and for everyone, and so when we premiered the piece, right near the end of the piece, everything's going well, and we're coming to the quiet section where Bethany is about to start playing the recorder with me. All of us heard, now I'm casting, the sound of the MetaQuest when the batteries are running out. And my MetaQuest went, and every one of us, probably our hearts stopped. Because it was like everything's going so well, and then the explosions of the forest and the desert. Here we are at the very end where things are calming down. And is there hope? Is there still a future for humanity? And we start to hear the lullaby coming, and I was out of power. and yet, for some reason, my quest was still playing, was still casting. I was still able to sing in it. Bethany was still able to play and mix with me into my headset for the audience. And we were able to play the piece. And I really, truly believe that Barry's spirit was keeping this running. So that we could share. I think he was. His spirit was in. It always is in Csound, but I felt like his spirit was the last bit of power.
Yeah.
So that we could finish and share this complete story and this message of hope. If anything, what is our job now? As artists and musicians, with the software we create and the music we create, is to somehow bring hope and bring positivity and bring community and comfort to each other. To share our fear and our brokenness, but also our positivity and our hope and our joy. And share the light. And I felt like Barry kept the lights on.
Yeah, it's so magical.
And his spirit, he is the spirit of Csound, and I think he really brought us to the finish line to share that message, which I know he shared as well too. He dedicated his life to giving us this amazing gift.
Yeah, it's truly magical, and that I feel we were blessed somehow because during our rehearsal, like before we went on stage, the internet connection or something wasn't right, and we couldn't like finish our rehearsal like multiple times, right? So I was worried, and I think you too. Everyone was worried too, like when we get on stage and like in a room packed of people, which means like it will as more people join in, then the chance of the like network congestion or like more thing will happen, and then but like somehow it went smoothly like throughout. Yeah.
Amazing. We were very lucky. Well, Barry, love you, miss you, but boy, if anyone's spirit lives from their creation, this is Barry's great composition. This is the composer's heart and soul into this system that we now all get to discover ourselves in it. And that is a little bit of what we always discover, right? That we have so much in common, that we share so much, that even how different we seem to be, how unique is maybe a better way to say it. And yet we find that we really share so many of the same hopes, dreams, fears, doubts, his spirit is right there with us all the time whenever we're kind of using this beautiful thing that he created. And we're discovering ourselves through it and giving voice to our discovery through it. And that's kind of the great thing about Csound. And thank you, Strongbear, for helping me and him share this dream and share this belief, because that's what CsoundMeta is all about now too. So thank you.
Thank you too.
Yeah. You know what might be nice, if you want, we could try to jam a little bit.
Yeah.
And see if anyone else I know was planning on joining us for a little bit from Sunnyvale, California, and maybe Mateo might join from Boston, and Emory, I don't know, might join. So, and also some of the Csounders from the Discord, from our Discord community that we're building. All of you hopefully have joined and downloaded the app. And we're going to certainly do more of these live streams once a month, twice a month, whatever. We're going to be still regularly meeting with you to help you get CsoundMeta working, to show new features and play new features and share them. We are writing new pieces together, and Strongbear and I are working on a book and a course of kind of composition and sound design that will all be posted, if we will, in the CsoundMeta app. So there's a lot coming. And we do have a big premiere in Krakow, Poland on November 23rd, I believe it is, and a workshop there on November 20th. So we're working now towards the next big premiere with new features and new capabilities, including a lot more live performance, capturing, sampling, processing inside the metaverse. using CsoundMeta. So that's all coming, and we're going to want to share that work with you and those developments, plus our tutorials and demos, which we're now formalizing as well. So it might be nice to try to jam a little bit. What do you think, Strongbear?
Yeah.
Should I try sharing and putting some things together? So
Yeah.
I'm going to put on my headset. I'm going to switch to sharing my screen. I'm going to set up the share so that it shares the cast. And let's make sure it's sharing. Now, I think we might have stereo now. Let's see. I'm going to just bring up an orb, and you'll tell me if fire sound is sharing in stereo.
Okay, is it fire sound? Yeah, I hear some crackle. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see if I can bring up another.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, Emery made that one. Good one, Emery. And I see that Strongbear has joined me over here in my studio. I'm in pass-through mode, and I'm going to roll out into the middle of the room in a minute. But it looks like it's working, Strongbear. Yes.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, I'm going to mute my speaking mic now, and so that I can talk and sing and all that into the thing. Oh, maybe I'll leave it on for a second. But let's get out of the pass-through mode, and let me pick a movement like maybe Jam 4. Put us on a world. Back up so I don't bump into your shadow. And let a little of this sound happen. What we're hearing as a start here is a classic. It's way down there, floating around. Let me bring it to me. Here it is. It's Ian McCurdy's Haiku, #1. It should be panning around you as I look at this beautiful, immersive, pink world. A very interesting planet. Right? And here I can hand an orb to Strongbear, which Strongbear can grab and play from Lakewood, Ohio. And maybe even I can open up an orb. If they're silver, they're silent. I can open one up and hand this one to Strongbear. It's a melodic orb, so as Strongbear plays that one, boom. Right? And I'll make the haiku a little softer. How do I make it softer? By grabbing it and, using both hands with the grip to make it a little softer. There. And I'm going to just float it around now and let it fly. And we're hearing Strongbear play this theme. Ooh. Boom. Right? And maybe I could add a little to that by bringing this orb to me called Total and low slow. Ooh, nice. Nice. So I'm doing that rumbling. Right? Beautiful. Now, this sine bell cloud is more of a generative instrument. So once you hit it, it kind of starts composing on its own. You hear it? Right? So I've turned it into a wanderer. And right, it sort of complements the sounds that Strongbear is making. Beautiful. And I'm going to attach patch cords to this. And I did that by holding my trigger and grip. So that with a patch cord, almost all the sounds that I create use the A button to trigger them. So even when they're far away, you're noticing that when Strongbear and I play a sound, we kind of have to strike it with the head of the mallet. There's that low rung. It's not making a sound unless I strike it. And you're noticing that its shape is changing. Well, that's because I'm changing all kinds of parameters in the sound as I rotate it or trigger it. But this sound is only playing when I strike it with the mallet heads. The laser pointers let me point at him and bring him. So even now, Strongbear has connected a patch cord to Teal, and so he can play it when it's a mile away by just pressing the A button. Boom. And every time he plays it, you're noticing there's a little visual feedback. Nice feature that Strongbear has added. Many times when my students start playing this, and when we start a big jam with 8 people, what sound am I making? Who's making that sound? What is the sound? Well, you can actually feel the sound in your hands, but you can also see the sound when you trigger it. Boom. I just played low and slow with a patch cord. Boom. And it lit up, showing me I'm playing that sound. Right? Now, also, when you use these patch cords, what you're doing is adjusting the sound settings. Do you see this over here on the right? And so here I'm saying button A will trigger the sound when a patch cord is connected. If I connect the second patch cord on the left side, I could now say, well, I would like the frequency of the orb shape. I'd like it to be when I move my left hand up and down. Oh, look. It wasn't making that sound before because I didn't have a patch cord connected. Do you see the frequency changing? I might leave this. I might even save it. Why don't I save this as, and I get a nice menu here, low and slow. I don't want it to be copy. I want it to be low and slower chord. And that's telling me that the chord, patch cords, kind of control this in a neat way. How nice, right? So now it's a more melodic instrument. I'll close this. You're noticing these little orbs above. How did I make those appear? Well, I pressed the X key. How did I remember? Well, maybe I looked at these cheat sheets that Strongbear has provided that remind me, well, if you hold the X, it brings up the menu, and if you hold the X and B, it does this. And so all of the buttons and knobs and joystick controls, X, Y, and Z, the triggers, the grips, all of them have been assigned to kind of bring up controls or do things. So here, I'm playing this taupe sound, and by pressing the letter X, it brought up the menus, if you will, the menu orbs that let me lock a sound, lock the volume, lock it so you can't hit it, clone it. Oh, I'll make a clone. Now it's the low sound again because I've got no patch cords connected, but this one is the any sound I want because I do have patch cords. I like that. Let's leave it in here. As a matter of fact, wait a minute. I'm going to save that preset. I'm going to write over the one we have because I'm loving it and save it again as ICMC 4 Jam. Let's go back. What's this menu? Instruments, worlds, movements. Well, let's change the world. Maybe you'd like us to be in a world with waves and clouds. Maybe not the most appropriate world for this nice, mellow, ambient thing that we're creating. Let's instead pick Pink Clouds 2.
Dr.B, sorry for interrupting, but Wen is here, so maybe should we bring her on?
Yes, please add Wen in and let's play the piece. But thank you for interrupting. I'm going to save this and stop the tutorial jam we've been doing. Hang on, let me save it because it's pretty good. And let's save it as ICMC Jam 4. Go back. Okay, so I'm going to go back to pass-through mode. I'm going to say hello. I'm back in my studio, and I'm actually going to go to a movement that I have called Silence Pass, and everyone will now go away and disappear, and I'll go back. Hello, Wen.
Hello.
Hello, Wen.
Join us with your quest, or are you here to? And because maybe we'll play the piece with the three of us.
I don't have extra batteries. So sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, when Bethany loaned you her quest, if I had known, I could have given you a half dozen batteries. Oh no. Well, I'll put it in order at Amazon and send them to you shortly. So welcome. Let's go back to Zoom for a second. You were there when we did the premiere. We were just talking about that for a moment. Maybe you might want to share a few thoughts about what the rehearsals were like and what the concert was like and what that all was like. That might be fun. And we're counting on you. Wen is a phenomenal filmmaker. She's working with a game audio company now and doing all kinds of things, visionary things, product development, and sound, technical sound work as well. But Wen really makes great video. And so I can't wait for Wen to be the watcher.
One day.
Really us turn and create a multiple perspective view. We're going to capture in all of our headsets and really try to capture the kind of total experience of Csound in the metaverse. So I'm looking forward to that. But Wen was playing on stage, had come out from California to Boston. We mentioned you already a little bit. I don't know if you heard that. And so tell us, Wen, a little bit about what your experience was, both in rehearsals and in performance. I can only tell everyone who's watching that Wen has been a TA at Berkeley, phenomenal student at Berkeley, studied in a lot of my classes, circuit bending and composition and Csound, all kinds of things. And but Wen has been working with us from the very beginning of CsoundMeta, and every time we play, it's like, it should do this. It'd be great if it did this. And so a lot of the beautiful features in our program are kind of ideas that Wen brought to the table. So thank you, Wen, for all of your input and help with developing the app. So what was it like to play it and all of that, and to rehearse and be part of the premiere?
I really enjoyed it because I feel like this time we took our time. Like we had more patience with each other and we just like spent our time like passing things around and also just being slow. I feel like I was like intentionally being slow with like the art, so I know what I'm doing with it and I can hear what I'm doing. And during the performance, I think that was the best run we had throughout the whole week. I don't know. Yeah, we had a lot of complications, I guess. Like it kept crashing at one point, right?
Yeah.
And
So
so
we just talked about that earlier. Like
There's
all the rehearsal.
There were so many surprises with Wi-Fi and routers and internet and I mean, it's not crashing. I just need to say this to defend strongbear. Crashing because the app is crashing. It's because darn it, we're in a university where they're protecting the security of students' privacy, confidentiality, their grades, and so there are firewalls like Fort Knox at Berkeley, and just trying to kind of have the internet work and routers work, and that's where we're kind of getting beat up all the time. And we have lots of tricks we can share with you about how we managed to get it to work at our university and in venues where there was a lot of firewall security and things like this. But That's what kept beating us up. And I thank you, Wen, for mentioning that. I would tell you that in the final piece of the keynote was a jam that I did with Susan on modulars, with theremin, and it was okay. But I would tell you the rehearsal was incredible. And so always in my life, the rehearsals are great and the performances are but that rehearsal was better. Well, you are right to say that of all of our rehearsals, even the ones we were doing here, boy, the concert was just sacred and beautiful, you know. So we were lucky about that.
And we've been looking for a cameraman for so long, like at the very early version of like CsoundMeta. We've been discussing about like we should have a cameraman, and then because like Dr.B is like doing like dual, triple jobs, like being a conductor, being a like a performer, but also being a cameraman. So like too much to care about. So if we have a dedicated cameraman, that would be better. And also, Dr.B can be on the projector as well, because otherwise, like his view, so he won't be able to to appear on the screen, right? Yeah.
I guess I'm never in the performance, am I?
Yeah.
It's always my sticks, but never me, you know. I don't know, but yeah. So we're looking forward to that. But yeah, you're right that happened. And Len, did your heart stop when we heard my headset run out of batteries, or as well? I think all of us it was like, oh.
It took me a second. I was also wondering what song is that? I was like, wait, it's so familiar. What is it?
It's not my words. I have not made that sound. You know, when I joke with people and I give them a ride in my car, I have the EV6. I convinced my wife to let me buy the electric car because Csound was inside. I have to, honey. And they get in the car and I say, Csound's in the car. And they're saying, like, what sounds? And I turn on the windshield wipers or open the door or, you know, bing, 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 all the sounds, you know, whatever, any of the machine and console sounds. So it's like, yes, you could listen to that battery running out of power sound and think, oh, who's playing that orb? And then, oh no, that's not an orb. we all have that double take, I think. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Like even in the jam at the bar, yeah, it didn't work until the last minute.
Yeah, now we had already headed back to California, so sadly we missed our best moment of crashing. So we're playing at a bar as a jam, like one of the late night concert venues. And we had a nightmare of getting the routers to work, the video to work. We finally got it working. Evelyn actually had a router in her backpack. And she pulls it out, throws it up, and gets on EduRAM or whatever, and her router works at the last minute as the show's about to start. We get it all on, everyone starts joining, and of course, since we did the workshop, which you were at, you might be nice to describe the workshop a little bit, but we did the workshop which you were at, and so a few new people had gotten their requests set up, they had brought them with them, and so we wanted them to be able to be part of the jam. So all of them are all excited, they got their headsets on, and they're joining, so we must have had 8 or 10 people all trying to jam, where the internet was really flaky. And so we're jamming, and okay, it's working, let's go. We start these drum beats, and then everyone's playing, and it's crazy. So after about, we had 10 minutes on the program to play, and we got about 5 minutes in, or 6 minutes in at most, and then the whole system blew up. Now, it was the most sensational explosion sound, so we're all, everyone's making all kinds of weird sounds, and then, and it was so, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah, right at the climax.
And even they at the mixing console was saying, is that one of Richard's sounds? Or did this thing just crash? And finally they woke up and said, oh, I think it crashed because I couldn't turn the sound off and it was like screaming at everyone. It's like a heavy metal, whatever. And so they finally pulled the board down. We all take our headsets off and I say, I think God ended that one.
Yeah, and everyone was cheering. Yeah.
It was fun. It was fun.
Strongbear. Do you remember during the performance, like, I was also like adding patch cords to your orbs that you were using.
Oh, so like we both connect the passports. Was that?
Yeah, because I was talking to you about patch cords like a few weeks back, right? I was asking like, who gets more
Yeah,
priority
like
from both.
who owned the object?
Yeah, that's it. Like you had to fight for it. So.
Right.
We both control it, so.
This is an important point to mention to everyone who's watching. It is, you saw even when we were improvising a minute ago, I could hand an orb. Now, Strongbear's in Ohio. I could hand an orb, Strongbear could play. I could take it back, and I could play. But it is true, and I was just showing a minute ago about patch chords, you can play the same object together. You can actually edit the same object together, and you can, what you're saying, Len, and I haven't done much of this. Usually when someone has patch chords connected, I don't try to connect to that. So again, that's what I'm saying. Len always discovers new things that we need to think about, or new things that, are possible that we don't even know. And so that's what Wen's bringing up once again. Thank you, Wen. I'm going to call these Wens from now on. And so, that's another very exciting thing about CsoundMeta, that you really can collaborate, literally collaborate. You're both playing the same trumpet, it's like, what? And now there are famous things in classical music where you play piano four hands, where two pianists sit and play. And so there's a little bit of history of that. But now we're creating Csound four hands, and it's pretty exciting. So I guess I noticed that you guys were working on the same object too, which was cool.
Yeah, we should try that. Like 2-3 people playing on the same object. Like we aside like all the possible buttons and like all the mapping to all the parameters and like decide who will play what on that instrument. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I think it'll look pretty too because the patch cards are like, they look like chandeliers.
Yeah. So if, for example, the chords instrument, we have like, so I made like a preset so that the left one will control the chord volume, but the right hand it controls the glitches. So it's basically two sound on the same object with two hands, and which means like you could connect your left hand to or I'll connect my right hand, and we could both play the same object. Yeah.
I think we need to start a new category or library that, where we have that, like 2P for two player, and, L this, R that, player, L this, R that, or whatever, or just that these are optimized for patch chords, or C for chords or something, or whatever, so I need to, that's a good plan. Maybe our next live stream we'll try to do that.
Yeah.
Show this the other feature that's so cool that was an accidental feature, really. While we were improvising, we noticed that when one orb hit another, they would go flying, and it was cool and fun. But boy, when you're jamming with a lot of people, all of a sudden everything's flying everywhere. So Strongbear added a feature that the orbs would kind of overlap, they would sort of pass through each other. They wouldn't just hit off each other.
And
And
so
so
that was
that was
like,
like
just
just
because we
because
didn't
we didn't
like that
like that
things kept
things kept
flying like
flying like
crazy.
crazy.
But
But
guess
guess
what?
what?
When you
When you
put an
put an
orb on
orb on
top of
top of
another,
another,
or an
or an
orb on
orb on
top of
top of
another,
another,
and
and
play
play
through
through
them,
them,
you're
you're
layering
layering
sounds.
sounds.
And so
And
you
so you
could
could
layer
layer
orbs
orbs
all of a
all of a
sudden, which
sudden,
is
which is
something you
something you
couldn't do
couldn't do
before.
before.
So
Yeah.
you
You could
kind of,
kind
with
of
two
with two
hands,
hands,
but you
but
can
you can
really
really
make
make
these
these
complex
complex
layered,
layered,
and if
if
anyone in
anyone in
game
game
audio
audio
knows
knows
about
about
layering,
layering,
it would
it
be
would be
when.
when.
And
And
so,
so,
so
so
much
much
of
of
game
game
sound
sound
design is
design is
about
about
layering
layering
this little
this little
sparkly
sparkly
effect with
effect
this
with this
sample, with
sample,
this
with this
sample, with
sample,
that
with that
sample,
sample,
getting this
getting this
perfect
perfect
blend.
blend.
And
And
now the
now the
footstep
footstep
is
is
this
this
combination of
combination of
crunch,
crunch,
crush,
crush,
blown,
blown,
grunt,
grunt,
you
you
know.
know.
And
And
so
so
there's so
there's so
much of
much
that.
of
And
that. And
now we
now
can
we
do
can do
that in
that in
CsoundMeta
CsoundMeta
accidentally
accidentally
because
because
Strongbear was
Strongbear was
trying to
trying to
avoid
avoid
collision,
collision,
Yeah.
chaos. And
And
so
so
it's now
now
a
a
feature.
feature.
So sounds like we need a new feature to like group and lock objects, so you can
Oh
move
yes.
a group of object like together. So like it's one giant object.
Wait,
Wait,
another
another
win.
win.
You see,
You
it's
see, it's
coming
coming
close.
close.
So
So
Strongbear, you
Strongbear,
need
you
to
need
add
to add
that to
that
the
to the
list.
list.
Yeah, of course.
Encapsulate group.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lock.
Lock,
Yeah.
yeah,
Lock
lock
layer.
layer,
Lock
lock
group.
group.
Right. So layering, yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's helpful to do that, and also play like harmonic object. Like for example, same bell object but at different pitches, and stack them, hit them to create like a chord.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Once you
once you
tune them,
tune
you
them, you
lock the
lock the
tuning or
tuning or
lock
lock
Yeah.
the,
the,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's two ways to do it. Either stack them and you hit at the same time, or separate them and connect the patch cord and press like a button to trigger them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thanks for
coming,
coming,
Wen,
Wen,
because
because
look, we've
look, we've
already
already
got
got
two
two
major
major
new
new
features that
features
all
that
of
all
us
of
could
us
look
could look
forward to
forward to
next
next
week,
week,
maybe,
maybe,
or
or
soon.
soon.
No,
No,
this is what happens. Strongbear, it's ridiculous because, and it's a
it's a
miracle.
miracle.
It's so amazing. But these ideas come, and before you know it, there's version 10.3.1, 10.3.2, 10, it's like crazy, great. Yeah.
Okay, I think I have to head out soon.
Yes,
Yes,
gotta
gotta
go
go
to
to
work.
work.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, Wen.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so great to have Wen.
Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna ultimately, and Wen is a graphic designer. Wen's thesis at Berkeley was, well, it's now one of the Spotlight 491 projects. The class 491 is the thesis class at Berkeley. And Wen created this beautiful game environment where you go into these, she called them ballrooms, and they had balls and orbs, totally different than CsoundMeta. But you went into these different rooms where she had kind of memories from her life, music from her grandmother. It was like really very special. And her video presentation at our final showcase. Well, the chairman is showing that now wherever wherever she goes. It's like, well, what do our students do? And our chairman was at our performance and workshops, and that's what I was going to have Wen share. And they had a banquet, and as part of the ICMC right after my keynote. And I must tell you, I was really thrilled when the chairman of our department is explaining in great detail how our program works, and she was doing better advertisements for our program than me. Well, you see, the system, and it's Strongbear, we're one of our alumni, and it's like she knew how the program worked. It was pretty great. So
Yeah.
it's exciting. A lot of people in the community, but in the department, and it's pretty great, pretty exciting.
Just one really pay attention to the details, and really like try to understand the system, even though we don't have enough tutorial.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's exciting there is, we learn so much from watching people play. We learn so much, and I will mention this again because it's so nice. Strong Bear, would you please at least remember or introduce or explain our two primary beta testers who happen to live at your house? It's nice that you gave them room and board, in turn for becoming beta testers. You're a very good CEO. And so might you explain who helped get this system so stable in the beginning?
Yeah, so Ni and Z, my two daughters, they're like 7 and 12, and so which means they started like beta testing for CsoundMeta like a year and a half ago, and they know almost like every detail of the software, and even we don't have any tutorial. As soon as I put the headset on, like for them, they will like shortly find out about that new features. That's so fascinating.
And your daughter he is playing clarinet now and has been jamming in it as well with some of the microphone features, and so
Yeah, actually, the sampler is one of her favorite instruments. Yeah, but like playing with Z, she often like stole the sampler from Yeez after she's been working on something like nice, and then she took it.
well, I remember when we got started, and you were telling me that what they loved doing was creating like pyramids and mountains with lots of boards, and they would just create a bunch and kind of collect them and almost start to make sculptures out of them in the world to
Yeah,
then hit or whatever, So
they
again, watching children play or seniors play. It's amazing, and also, we've given this to musicians and faculty at Berkeley, and they have a different, how do I synchronize the drum beats, and how do I play to a grid, and how do I make sure it plays in the right key, and how do I control, they're wanting to jam with it, but like they want to know, they want it to play modes and keys, and they want to have tempo control and make sure the beats all sync up with other, and lock to a grid and all these things. So all of these perspectives are influencing our design ideas, and they are adding to this, as you were saying, super long and growing list of features
like features
and also, you might take a minute, Strong Bear, and just tell a little bit of your story, about as a musician, what you were trying to create or explore or do in the metaverse, and how even some of those, you came from like an Ableton Live world, or you came from I'm working with a DAW, and how do I make a DAW-like experience in the metaverse? And even then you have, with the timeline, created that. But maybe tell a little about what of your musical experience and background has influenced this app and other apps that you're working on in Unity?
So my initial idea was to create a system that is so compact but powerful that we could bring it anywhere and compose, um, perform, play like anywhere we want, whether like at the airport, on the ocean, in the park. Because it came from the COVID time when I was like the I finished this first year in Berkeley and ready for the second year, and then the COVID hit, and I was like buying a bunch of instruments like drum kit, like the keyboard, like bass, everything enough like for the whole band. But then after like just 3 months, I sold them all brand new because of the COVID, and then we gotta move back to Vietnam. I took a gap year during that time, so I was thinking like, is there like a better way to still making music while we move, and we don't have to be attached to like a studio to like multiple instruments. So and when I came back to Vietnam, my friend introduced me to the Meta Quest, the Quest 2, and wow, I feel like this is the one that I've been looking for. So I knew about VR, but like I didn't know that the Quest 2 could run as a standalone unit without a cable attached to the computer. So like the earlier version of the VR headsets, which is the Oculus one before they renamed them to Meta, I think. The headset needs a powerful computer and a cable too. So it was just like a projector. Since the Quest 2 is like a portable device, so I think this is the one that I need. And then I started working on like a prototype, um, and then I use like things like OSC or MIDI to control the Ableton. That's the initial prototype because eventually I want to create like a standalone DAW. So which means like no computer needed, just the headset itself. But I need like a solution for that. So I found Dr.B. And Dr.B was working on Csound, and I was curious about Csound as well because I looked at the curriculum at Berkeley and I saw Csound like programming like in the list. So like Csound has been stuck it with me for like for 2 3 years before I actually started like to deep dive into it and work with Dr.B. So, and then when I work with Dr.B, like the whole new world like open, because I was thinking about like working with like traditional music, like with the like on the grid rhythm, like 4/4 stuff like that, and but Dr.B was like. Working on something else. It's more like a ambience, more like a soundscape, more like sound cinema, and that's new to me. So yeah, and I was open to the idea, and I like took one of his sound, which is the I think the blue,
Yeah.
and then we happen to use the orb shape, and we happen to use the mallet to kind of morph it. We didn't use a mallet because it's like like a hitting instrument, a percussive instrument, but just because the way it interact with the object, like it, I could map more like parameters into one object, so that's why I chose that object. But coincidentally, Dr. B is a radio baton composer and performer, so yeah, it all makes sense, and like it all combined what we has been experienced. So yeah, so the Dr. B also have the dream since 1979 about like seeing the sound, playing with sound as a physical object, and because we both share that same dream, so and we've been on a journey for all over 1.5 year. We've been through multiple workshops. I stopped counting because I like like at the like 4 or 5 of them you can remember, but now we have more and more and more and more. Like last week we already have two, right? And before that we have ICMC, and then we have the International CSAL conference. So yeah,
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 and like I said, each one of them we learn. But I love how our dreams overlapped, but from kind of totally different kind of perspectives, but there was so many wonderful coincidences of what you were searching for, what you were making, and in fact, the radio baton has just come back to life, Max Matthews' original object, and his sons are rebuilding some of the sticks for me. I'm collaborating at MIT for doing things, and so yesterday, Strongbear and I were Zooming, and I was showing him all of the way the radio baton finally worked again, and really worked, and Strongbear at the end said, well, you know, in my 401 class or in my 231, you know, I like to conduct this. The whole thing about the radio baton is not only that it's this beautiful virtual 3D wireless XYZ controller, kind of like Quest in a way, right? But that, and this was done years ago by Max Matthews, the father of computer music. And so they built me these radio batons at Bell Labs, and I was writing symphonies for them and concertos, so there would be a conductor and a full acoustic orchestra, and I was able to perform with my virtual orchestra and make concertos for, you know, acoustic and electronic, and really have precise metrical control, musical control, and expressive control of all the sounds. That's what the radio baton made possible. But it made it possible because of Max Matthews' conductor program. And the conductor program was this way of allowing you to conduct MIDI or to conduct synthesizers or conduct scores. You know, so it's almost like you would be the accompanist or whatever and play. And it's about beat tracking and control, it's a gestural mapping. So all the things that you're seeing and experiencing with the controllers and sensors, Max was working on starting in the 60s. At Bell Labs.
Wow.
And so the cool thing was I showed finally the program, the conductor program to Strongbear. I had done that, and he said, yeah, I made something like this in Max, and I built something that allowed me to conduct giant steps, and you would do rhythm things, and you could play solos, and so even that, there's a coincidence where Strongbear had no idea about the radio baton, which you see behind my head there in a way, these mallets, and you know, he had no idea really about how that all worked or what it was. And then I showed him a program yesterday. He said, oh, it's kind of like what I was thinking. And he said, you know, Dr. B, I can put that kind of radio baton capability into CsoundMeta. And he's already actually done this and built his own prototypes of doing this with Max and other devices. So we may see a radio baton mode in CsoundMeta pretty soon, which would be cool. And Strongbear, because of what he was building in his original prototype, where he wanted musicians to play and him to be able to play and control from MIDI keyboards with OSC, well, he already even has the functionality for that, so that I could put down my MetaQuest things. This is what he was telling me yesterday. You know, you could put down the hand controllers, Dr. B, and pick up the radio baton and play with it. So I don't know. There might be some exciting new possibilities by Poland or beyond, but and not again because, hey, Strongbear, could you take this thing and do this? But wait, hey, Strongbear, he's already done it. You know, so Max Matthews would always say to me that, you know, these ideas, you know, they're floating around. We share them. When you kind of say, who was the first to think of that? Who was the first to do that? Who was the, well, it's, and even my thesis advisor, Dick Moore, who wrote the C music language, not the C sound language, but, you know, we're always saying, you know, you don't think people always wanted to fly? You know, that was his thing. You don't think that, you know, we always thought, boy, I wish I could live underwater. I wish I could, you know, just have scuba or, you know, whatever. I wish, you know, and so, or I could go to the moon, or I could, you know, that, you know, so it is interesting that Strongbear had not only these ideas all on his own, but also had implemented them his way And so, these worlds are so beautifully, it's a miracle and such a blessing for me, because these dreams that I had in the 70s are really, being realized by Strong Bear here, and I'm getting to kind of really live in them as a performer or composer. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could imagine like how hard it was like to make the radio baton like and also compose and perform like in the like 60s and like 70s. Yes. Because
Well, that's a longer story. That's many longer stories for another time. But I can at least share one little one. Imagine that I'm going with Max Matthews' electronic violin, the electronic Stradivarius that he had invented by analyzing. He had Fourier analysis tools, so he built a violin. It ultimately became the Zeta violin. And that company, with Jean-Luc Ponty and other great electronic violinists played. But Max prototyped all the pickups and all the technology. And I wrote a beautiful piece for it that allowed the audience to sit essentially inside of Stradivarius while he was playing my music, and it was surrounding him. It was performed at the Kennedy Center. Well, I also played it in Paris at the Theatre de Rome back in the 80s. I actually sold my life insurance policy so I could afford a plane ticket to go to Paris. And so I went to Paris with Max's technology, and the violinists and violin designers from Europe all came to see this new electronic Stradivarius from Bell Labs, and they were very angry and very, oh, come on. And so the first half of the concert was they took Stradivarius out of the Instrument Museum in Paris so that the violinist, famous violinist Janos Negishi, amazing, could play on the Stradivarius and then the electric Stradivarius. And so they in the audience were like shouting out, play the Chicago, play this, play that, play that. And so, Janos is frantically playing this piece on that, and it's like, and so then one of them raised their hand and said, look, I hear in America they've invented a synthetic low-covert cheese. Oh my God. That's what this is like. And so they were like very frustrated. Then it was intermission. And then we played my piece, and it was with ARP 2600 and the electronic violin, and they were so happy after to see, no, we're not replacing Stradivarius with little plastic toy versions. We're creating a new way of playing music, processing, and immersing the audience in sound. They were so happy. But this story is about how hard it is, because you can only imagine that it was cheaper to fly to London and then take the boat across to Paris or whatever, so I was trying to get there for. And so here I am trying to cross the English Channel in an ARP 2600, a backpack full of mixers and laptops and the electric violin, and the customs officials were saying, what's this? What's that? This was like in 1981 or 82 or something. What is this? And so I actually had to unpack everything and put on a little concert, a synthesizer concert in customs. People are waiting in line. No, it's this. It's not a, but a concert in Paris tomorrow.
That's why CsoundMeta like was born to pack all of them into like one tiny device.
Well, I am hopeful. Even Susan Shaman has been collaborating with us and was playing with us, was there doing live gigs in the concert, premiered the piece in Vienna. She's also doing game audio for Riot Games, amazing work, but pursuing a master's degree at UC Santa Barbara. And she's played my Mimo pieces, which now still only run on old PowerPC laptops, which I have to bring dozens of them so I can jam with my Wimos. And Susan's like, I'm rewriting that for you in the Quest. I want to make a version that instead of modes, you just play the piece in there with all your sounds and the whole composition. So, I really am inspired by and so in love and so grateful for my students, the inspiration they bring to me, but the way that if they hear my work or see a little artist saying, wait, you should see what I could do with that idea. And, I think that's what happens to all of us as musicians. I hear this incredible piece by Brahms or by Bartok or by Beethoven or by Stockhausen or by Flying Lotus. And I say, whoa, or Brian Eno, whatever, Peter Gabriel, I could do that. I should do something like, so that's what inspiration is. And when my students see some of what I've done and they go on and do something so much cooler with it, or they see an old idea that I had that was kind of handcuffed by the technology of the time and say, we could really put that in here. Oh boy, it's so inspiring, and I'm so grateful. So, I think, I don't know what heaven is like, but I have a feeling I'm experiencing it right now. I really am, and I can't tell you how grateful I am and blessed I am, because wow, it's just so amazing to have these brilliant students and watch them grow and thrive. A number of them now are professors and faculty at Berkeley, which is so cool. A number of them are at Apple and at Microsoft and at Google and and all these AI companies, and so they're not doing Csound there. But they're still exploring those dreams and those ideas that then come back that I can build on. It's remarkable.
Yeah. So, like what we share is like the dreams, the imagination, innovation, and like keep learning, keep exploring.
Yeah, and it's such an exciting time, and it's so sad. We have to mention it's such a sad and troubling time. This is this balance, this yin yang idea. I was, when all this great stuff is happening, there's an equal balance. So it's so I'm so hopeful and optimistic and blessed, and I think we all are, and I just hope that more and more of us find a way to plant gardens, grow beautiful objects, plant seeds of hope, and share our dreams and our creative soul, we have to do that. Now, Strongbear, would you like to show them the sampler and even show them your idea now of connecting multiple effects, a little bit of where we're headed? I would love you to do a demo of that for everyone. Or maybe there are questions. It looks like there's been some chatter and things too that we might like to answer. Up to you. But we've talked a lot today. We've certainly made some nice music and sound, so I hope people enjoyed that. But if you want, I'd love you to demonstrate some of the latest features if you want.
So, how about like we talk about the composition, like how it looks and how you compose in that? Because like we've been introducing about like how to play the instrument, how to edit the instruments. But I don't remember if we have talked about the composition, and especially like right before the ICMC, we've been introduced the new features into the compositions, like 4 layers of movements.
I'm happy to open up the compositions timeline and talk about how it works and what the thinking is, or
Yeah.
you could show the timeline, whatever. It's up to you, whatever you want.
Yeah. I think you can open one of the existing composition and maybe like you walk through how you set it up and.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd love to. Let's see. So I'm going to cast again. Share. And I'm going to go to sharing and make sure I'm just sharing the cast. It looks like we're good. And let me check that again. Yeah. And let me check this. Stereo. Okay. I think it's doing the right things. And now if I do this, it will hide those controls. And I'll sort of back my chair out into the studio. And let's just see if sound is working.
Yeah, I think it's coming through.
Good, okay. And I see you over there. So we'll delete the object. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go to my composition screen or menu. And I did that by pushing the hamburger menu on the left side here. And up comes composition. And so, you know, what we prepared for the ICMC, here's the composition. So if I click on play, it'll start the piece, which you see starts with a sound. It comes up, this filtered noise study. Actually, it's a full composition of mine that I'm running. It's a classic. And we got some words, titles, and credits. And it tells us now we're in movement 1. Before me appears an object that I could play. Rust. A little fidget. And I could even hand this over to Strongbear, who could, you know, kind of play it and hand it back. And we're just going to walk through and let the first movement play while I talk about something else just appeared, trickle. And this is a little bubble, a little hissing, but with a rhythm. Here's sizzle. And so new objects are appearing for the player. And higher sizzle, and a mid-noise tone. And all these objects are kind of appearing. As does it. Oh, we're in the forest. There are trees. There's a little bit of rust. More of a filter noise. We're above the clouds. Here comes the sine wave instrument, which is a wanderer. It's floating around. I can grab the noise and spin it and fly it off. I could pick a sound and make it louder and fly it around. So I'm introducing objects that the players in my piece play or connect match chords to. Notice some are fading while others are appearing. What just appeared was this beautiful like sound of a gamelan off in the distance. Right? And we're over the mountains now. It's sort of trying to tell a story as I present scenes, but also introduce objects that, you know, it's a kind of soundscape or sound cinema as I describe it. And finally now we're back down on Earth, maybe on a beach. There's some snow-covered footsteps or whatever over this pier. Also, we've now introduced a process that I could see. And now, maybe we're at the end of the first movement, and I would go to dark, fade out a little bit, everyone. Cameras would fade away, and we're ready to cue up the second movement. Second movement appears, some sounds, here they come, boom, called Desert Dreams. And I bring up the audio, and we start to hear this chord kind of harmony as I'm floating above the clouds. Right? So I'm going to now stop this. I'm going to show the timeline. I'm going to kind of zoom in on the timeline. I'm going to grab the kind of one of these objects that let me put myself in the middle of the timeline. And I'm going to pause by clicking on the controls here. So we're in the middle of movement 2. So how do I compose now? Well, like I said, Strongbear started with a sequencer idea. And then he created, in essence, a soundscape sequencer or a sound cinema sequencer so that I could kind of play movements, put them in track, put video in track. So let me even bring it a little closer so that I can show you a little bit more. So I'm grabbing the control here, and so here we are. And if I hold down the left joystick and hit X, it's going to mute all the objects. So now they've all turned silver. They're still here waiting for me, but they're not playing, so I can talk a little about the timeline. So as you look at the timeline here, the top row, second row, third row, and fourth row now are 4 streams. And in each case, I can place a sort of movement, right? So I can go back to my movement menu. I can, oh, look at that clock. Well, that clock says put that on the timeline. So I could go to a movement that's just, you know, a jam, or, you know, movement 2's 1 chord thing, and say, put that on the timeline. Here it is, right here, 2-1 chord. And I could say, I'd like the first movement, instead of beginning with that noise, I want it to start with some chords. So now that I've placed the chord in the timeline on, let's say, the 4th stream, if I say go back to the beginning, go back here and start again, the piece would now begin with a little of the noise, but in a minute, oh, started hearing the chord. There it is. So, well, you know what? I don't know that I want chords. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to rewind and start the piece again. Chords went away, and now it starts with the noise. And now sizzle appears. Oh, here it comes. Title appears, and then sizzle. And so this is how I start to compose. I create movements. Oh, here's this. And so, you know, I create movements that say, put in that sound, put in silence, bring this sound in here. Noise will continue until sine cloud appears and replaces it. But I want noise plus sizzle, so that's appearing here, and the layers are staggered. So this is allowing me to kind of build the wave objects, and the object could be a single orb or a whole movement up here over time. Let's pause it. Right? And so that's a little bit of how I structure. Now, how do I put in titles? Well, here I can sort of bring up the title object, and let's pause. And I can now type in, copy, pasting, clear, title in bold. So this is, you know, allowing me to put in labels, who composed what, who did what, who are the players, who are we, and have a title object appear at that point in the timeline. And lastly, in the timeline, I can also, on the bottom stream, and we're about to add even a second stream of worlds. So this allows me to say, at that point, I want this world to appear. Right? So I could go to my worlds. I could say, you know what, I like this piece. Instead of beginning with the trees, I'd like it to begin with that pink, surreal world. So here's this pink canyon, and instead of starting with that world, or I'll maybe start with the trees, but right after the trees, now let's move them out of there. Let's put that there. Okay. And so now let's start the piece now. Let's get that out of the way. Let's start the whole piece again. Here we go. Begin now. So it starts with silence. I've got the title card and the noise is playing, and now instead here comes the title of the piece. Oh, forest dreams, but we're in a forest on the pink planet now. You see? And so you see that I could compose whatever, right? And start to compose this way. And this is what the timeline makes possible. So my piece unfolds, I get minutes and seconds, I know where each movement starts, and I even have maybe out here some reserved sounds that you never hear that I'm experimenting with. So I put all my objects that I think I might want to compose with sort of off the screen at the end of the timeline, and I can pull those and pop them in. Maybe I want noise at the end again or not. So, these are kind of orbs waiting, including a white screen and a black screen and some silences, so that I can kind of introduce that along the way. Okay? I'll go back to pass through, I'll go to my setup, I'll hide the timeline, and I'll quit this demonstration a little bit of how I start to compose, or one would start to compose inside CsoundMeta. Okay?
Great.
Answer some of the questions you think, or start to show, what's possible.
Yeah, it's great. Like explanation for the composition, and you can think of it like a video editor where you have like a text track, you have a sound track, and you have like the image and or a video track. So and this would be useful to for us to like create books about composition, because we could use this same idea for like each chapter of the book. So like each chapter would be like a composition where we could put like samples in it, and we record like record your voice, like instruction voice into it, and people could play that composition and like follow.
That's exactly the idea. That's exactly the idea. That what we would do is, and that's our plan, everyone. That's coming. I don't know when it'll be completed, but the idea is, I always imagined, I wrote the Csound book and worked on that. That took 5 years with MIT Press. And I really wrote little, edited all that. And then the audio programming book with Victor Lazzarini, that took 10 years.
Wow.
And I think I need to go to silence. Hang on. I'm going to pick my silent movement.
Yeah, it's like a background music.
We can do that. And Strongbear does tell me that when Strongbear's programming the system, he often starts my movements or the pieces or cues up some classics and just lets them run as background, and that's a nice feeling. But I'm imagining, I've always wanted to write something about composing, something about sound sculpting, soundscaping, and creating not just creating composed ambient music, not just ambient evolving drones and pads, but how do I shape time to tell stories with sounds? We've heard of that in some ways as soundscaping, right? And sound sculpture. And that's been a dream of Edgar Varese and others for many, many years, since the 50s, 40s, 30s, whatever. And so our dream here is to not make an album, but in fact make a version that you would open the book or the tutorial or the gallery, I don't know what word we'd have for it, the sculpture garden, sound sculpture garden or whatever, and in it would be maybe 6 soundscapes, like would be on it. But each one would kind of really have a kind of different style. One might be really groovy, one might be really tonal, one might be all about stuff on a grid, one might be telling a more structured ambient idea, one might be about noise and noise composition, one might be all about micro polyphony, and one might be all about generative cloudscapes, but just that you would end up with, you would be able to listen to 6 compositions. Just listen to them and watch them and sit back and enjoy them like you would an album. But you would also then be able to play along. You would also then be able to compose your own variations and versions of, remix them. And then last, and share them. We're talking about having a forum using Discord or others so that users who have the album or have the app would be able to then share and compete. And hey, here's my version of Cloud Strata 7, or here's my version of Star Walk 3, or so we're thinking it would be a way of sharing remixes, sharing versions. Hey, let's play Star Walk 3 together, or my version today, so people can share and play. But, and here's where the composition book comes in. Yes, you would also be able to follow along how you make the sounds, how you design the sounds, how I modified the sounds, what my thinking was about how I then made, hopefully, as Wen was saying, a composition that was beautiful or soulful or powerful or groovy or fun or joyful or just make you want to dance or play. When everyone gets this thing, they almost always, a groove happens, they want to dance or play. So what is it about the sound or the rhythm or the thing that makes that happen? And then how does that joyful moment turn into a really joyful piece? Or really, and so I think that's what Strongbear and I are really heading towards, is how to teach, or not even, what's teaching? It's sharing, it's learning, it's, being excited, sharing your excitement, sharing that feedback that students bring. And so that's kind of what we're really, I think, going to create. And so there'll be, I'm not looking for a record deal. You know what I mean? This is 2025. I'm looking with Strongbear's help. We're both looking to create ways of sharing music and musical styles and a way of making music. And even when Strongbear shared with you a little while ago and said, I introduced him to soundscaping or whatever, and he didn't know about those styles or whatever, it opened another world. Well, isn't that exciting? I always felt like, for me at Berkeley, the exciting thing was, students were all coming in and they're jamming and rocking. Berkeley's the school of rock. The school of jazz, and it became the school of rock, and now it's the school of DJs. But it's so much more than that in a way, too. And I always was excited because I would get to show them Perez or show them Stockhouse. And of course, some students came knowing that. But, in my classes and through my life's work, I was able to, sort of show them that. I had a student who took my composition class at Berkeley who just won a Red Bull Composers Contest, where that student who was with us in Vienna premiering the soundscape piece is from the game design and game audio department at Berkeley and composition department. I invited him to take my class where I introduced Stockhausen and Chowning and Subotnik and all kinds of styles of music that he did not know. He ended up winning this competition, writing very traditional, phenomenal. What a great composer he is. Miles. And Miles won the competition. Hundreds of people entered from all over the world. And so that meant they flew into Vienna. They had a symphony orchestra, a professional orchestrator, and they had recording sessions. They're making a film about it of these student orchestral compositions for Red Bull. And he said that what he ended up spending a lot of his time with the head of Red Bull talking about was music concrete and Edgar Varese, which is something he would have never talked about had he not been in my comp class. He shared that with me, and thank you, Miles, and I was so happy. But that's the idea, is that maybe this world, this object, will introduce to high school students, to everyone, these other ways of thinking about sound and music. So, that excites me, and I think that's where we're headed.
Yeah, that's great.
And now and strongbear, and that's kind of what we're building, and now I want to say one other thing about strongbear for all of you watching. Strongbear has such a beautiful sharing soul and spirit as well. And Strongbear has been also screencasting live, when he's adding code and adding features. And he's been helping and teaching my students and former students and colleagues from around the world. So if you're thinking, how would I do this? How do I learn that? How do I build this? Strongbear has been offering their expertise through the CsoundMeta Discord. So all of you who are on Discord might want to share some messages and, hey, I'm thinking I'd like to do this, because Strongbear has been generously offering time and expertise to helping you make your own CsoundMetas and your own using Csound in the metaverse. And Strongbear, please, now you've asked me to talk about our book ideas and our future ideas and our composition ideas and community building ideas, but also you were talking about ways of making even CsoundMeta more customizable and personalizable. So maybe you'll share a little bit of that goal of yours as we end today's session. And this is how to add orchestras or add your own worlds, etc. So that right now you have 30 worlds you can choose from, but you really might like to add your own backyard, or do a whole thing about your pets. And how do you bring those worlds in? And so tell them about your future plans to let people make their own sounds, include their own sample libraries, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, the way we build the app it's always been built so that it's customizable. So, for example, the preset, they all each of the parameters can be adjusted, can be mappable to any of the movement. I mean your gesture can be mapped to any controls. Um, and you could create multi-layer of so the simplest one is the instrument itself. The second layer is the palette, and then more is the movement, which is like a combination of different palettes and instrument. And then we add another layer, which is the composition. So it's more add more complexity. So it to the point that you could do as complex as you want, and all detail of the aspect of the app is customizable. So we don't force you into a certain way of playing, but we want to open open up your creativity, and no matter how you want to play it, there will be an option for you to do it. So will keep
I'll interrupt you a
yeah.
second, Strong Bear, to push you to another place I want you to go. But even today, I discovered my student Emery, who just graduated. He's starting at Cal Arts in September with big scholarship, and he's amazing, genius, mad professor. He's our Thomas Edison of our department right now, Emery, and phenomenal jazz trumpet player. Everyone loves him. He's written all kinds of. Well, he was making some. I just happened to just randomly pick one of his instruments, and it was amazing. I loved it. I need to use it in my next piece. And so, he was able to even take the current version and really customize and personalize it. In fact, this morning, as I was preparing for this, I pulled up randomly an instrument by my former student Zio, who's also such a great strong writer and musician. And Zio's instrument, when I attached patch cords to it, did all kinds of neat stuff that I had never done. So already there's so much customizability currently, but you can't add your own Csound. You can't add your own Csound piece yet. You can't add your own collection of samples, your own sampling instrument that does granular sampling or stutter editing. If I don't have a stutter instrument that you can edit, you're saying, oh, but I have this great Csound thing I created that stutters, and I would love to add that. So that's what's coming, and that's what I want you to talk about, Strong Bear.
Yeah, that's exactly what we are heading to. So we will open the ability to customize even more, so that you don't have to stick to whatever instrument that existing right now in the app. You can add more C sound instrument and edit them, clone them, just like the whole C sound editor inside of CsoundMeta, and you could edit it directly on the headset or through a web editor, an external editor. So because the way, like if you have a keyboard to work with the headset is cool, but what if you don't have one? Then you well maybe use your phone or your computer to edit it, and then it gets saved into CsoundMeta, and you can share with people. Yeah.
Your own libraries, you might even want to sell your libraries. You might even want to sell your books. You might even want to sell your album made in Csound. We're going to make all of those things possible to you too. So we're going to give away the vessel.
Yeah.
But how do you decide to add to it, commercialize things created with it? We're going to open that up to you and be inspired by things you suggest.
Right. So CsoundMeta is like an operating system where you could build your own software, or like a DAW, and you could put your plugins into it.
Exactly. So there's so much more that's coming. Now we're pretty much done for today's episode. So I don't know if there are any last questions or thoughts anyone would like to add, but we're getting close to the end of this one. We'll certainly have another in a couple of weeks, or Strong Bear and I are now deciding on the next one, but probably 2 weeks from now or whatever. We're thinking every couple of weeks or at least once a month, but we'll let you know about that through our Discord channel. What are some of your closing thoughts for today, Strong Bear?
Yeah. I'm excited to see people keep coming to at the CsoundMeta Discord server. And last week we did the workshops, and I see the students was really excited to play and get hands-on experience with the app. So I hope when the VR is more popular, and it's just like the phone, and when it become much more compact and affordable, like a regular glasses, then it's a time for us to boom.
Right. It will be. We think we're creating possibilities, but also that we might be showing new ways of thinking about using this technology. One of my former students said that they felt that what we were creating or bringing into this world was a little more of what the original vision of the metaverse and would was, which is a place where people collaborate and share and play and exchange and create together and so that's what we're doing. We're not playing a war game together. We're not solving a puzzle together. We're not killing zombies together. We're shooting the enemy, simulating combat, sadly. Instead, we're creating beautiful, powerful, emotional, tender, fun experiences, through art and sound and image, and trying to connect us in that way. And so, that's, I think, I hope that more and more people even gravitate to that way of working in the medium. And so, or expressing themselves in the medium, or enjoying communicating and collaborating in the medium. I can't wait to go to Poland because I can't wait to give them, I'm going to leave them a few headsets, of course, as a gift, and I'm going to leave them this stuff after the workshop, so I can't wait to be jamming with my best friends in Eastern Europe, as well. So that's going to be so much fun. So,
Absolutely.
I want to thank you again, Strong Bear, for this great session, for all of the great work that you're doing, and I want to thank all of you in the metaverse for joining us, and hopefully you enjoyed some of the stories that we told today, and hopefully you'll also use this as an opportunity to remember, as we're remembering Barry Vercoe, who's so important in the world of computer music. I hope you'll use this as a chance to remember some of the people that have been super important in your life. Some of your teachers, some of your mentors, some of your family and parents and grandparents that have, helped you become the creative person that you are. And so, if anything, I'm thinking today was a little bit dedicated to that, and what we want to do always is take what is happening there and really find out how it really relates to our own life as well, and appreciate those in our life too who have really brought us here. Creatively, personally, spiritually. So I want to thank you all for this session today, and thank you, Strong Bear, for allowing me to connect with Barry in such a deeper way, but connect over time, from 1970 when he really supported and helped me find this world. And so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah. So I think that's about it today. Thanks to everyone for joining us, and we'll see you on our other channels like Discord, and then we'll see you on our next live stream. Thank you. Have a great one. Bye bye.